Professor Dr. Jayapal Asarya is a former director, School of Life Sciences, and former professor and head, Department of Zoology, University of Madras. He has more than 40 years of teaching experience at the university level. He holds a PhD degree in marine science and has contributed extensively in the area of coastal zone management. He was also educated at the Duke Marine Laboratory, North Carolina, USA. He is the first Indian to receive, since 1920, the prestigious international award from the Plymouth Marine Laboratory, UK, for the year 1991. He was invited to deliver keynote address in the first, second, third and fourth World Conferences in bioethics in Spain. He is active in promoting international bioethics by way of serving as the president of Asian Bioethics Association and as an associate editor in UBO's Journal of Asian and International Bioethics, Japan, and International Society of Bioethics, Spain. He is a co-editor of the Living Dictionary of Bioethics. He has presented and published more than 100 research papers. 38 research students have received the doctorate degree under his guidance.
Welcome to UGC lecture series on environmental science. Environmental science is a transdisciplinary subject. It combines the principles of ecology, principles of economics and the principles of human intervention into the ecosystem. And we should have an understanding of what is meant by ecological system. We use the term very commonly and quite frequently, but rarely we understand the word ecosystem itself. And as I said earlier, it is made up of two words. Eco means ecology and system. So, system means that it has number of components and ecology means house. So, in the house there are number of components and they all work together to maintain the aim. Aim of ecology is the pursuit of happiness. So, now the simple word has three main aspects. One is ecology, as I said, the house, the oikos, and there are in the house there are number of components and its components interact with each other and form a relationship, interrelationship forms a system, and that system forms the ecological system, and we shorten it and call it ecosystems. So, ecosystem is one major aspect, and so the systems we considered, ecology we have considered, when you combine these two, it becomes a system. So, when you identify a system, it always has a aim. So, the aim of the ecosystem is eco balance, and this also we studied earlier. What is ecology? Is the structure and function of nature. What is ecosystem? So, we need to understand the system concept. System concept, there are number of components. We need at least two components to make a system. We cannot make a system with one component. So, if you make a system with one component, it will not work. So, I am going to show to you that in a biological world, there are two components to make a system, and that system is diversified into many areas, and many areas leads to different disciplines. So, the major aspect is eco balance. So, eco balance is the ability to maintain the different functions together to make a harmony, make a system beautiful. So, the contents of the lecture will be application of the concept of ecosystem. Lecture has two aspects: what are the biological, biotic and abiotic component will be considered, and what are the various types of biological systems, what is the different disciplines involved. Now, let us look at this figure number 1. To make a system, at least we need two components. Here in this ecological system, ecosystem, one component is abiotic, that is non-living component. Other component is biological component, and biological component, when it is linked with abiotic components, it forms a biological system. So, there is a level of organization, and this level of organization is this is biological. So, the basic fundamental unit of biological system is genes. Genes are found in the nucleus, and nucleus is found in the cell. So, cell higher level of organization is found in the cell. So, in the cell we have, when organisms of similar cells are formed together, they form organs, and many organs will form organisms. So, the organs are formed by same type of cells. So, the third level is organs. So, many type of organs form organisms, and the organisms are, in other words, species. Species of the same species, they form populations. So, in the nature we have different populations, and the different populations form a community. So, community we will see later has 4 components. One is a producer, a consumer, and also the decomposer. The 3 components are very essential to make a community. If you go into a village, you will find a lady preparing idlis or dosai under the tree, that is a production. The people come and buy it, that is consumer. Then after that it becomes a waste material, and that becomes a decomposer. So, community is the essential part, a larger unit of the biotic system. Then abiotic components, there are 2 essentially, they are matter and energy. Matter, anything that occupies space is matter, and all material, all creation, all components in the biological world are compound of matter. And we have seen earlier that in ecology we are considered about energy. So, matter and energy, when they are coupling together, form the biological systems. In the biological systems, there are various disciplines are involved. When a gene interacts with matter and energy, that is the fundamental biotic component interacts with the abiotic matter, then it forms a genetic system. And the genetic system, DNA is very, very important. And genetic system, the discipline that comes out of genetic system is genetics. The next one is cell. Cell, when it interacts with matter and energy, it forms cell system or cellular systems. And the discipline that comes out of that is cell biology. Then third level of organization is organs. An organ interacts with matter and energy, and it forms organ system, and that becomes histology. The subject of dealing with the organ system is histology. Then we have organisms. Organisms, when they interact with matter and energy, they form organismal system, and that will be physiology. Subject that comes out of that is physiology. The fifth level is population. Population, as I said, consists of same species, members of the same species, and when they interact with matter and energy, they form population system. The study is demography. The final higher component is communities. So, when a community interacts with matter and energy, it forms ecosystem, and that is So, we should be clear that when we talk about ecosystem, we are talking about a larger unit called community. So, it is not any gene or organ per se, but it is a larger unit. As I said earlier, in the community we have 3 major components: producer, consumer, and the decomposer. So, that is an ecological system. So, ecological system is a larger unit comprising of all other subsidiary units starting from population to the genes. So, that is the major difference between ecology and ecosystems. So, relationship between living and non-living is, so as I said, living is a biotic component, and when you add A, suttam, asuttam, like that, when you add A, biotic becomes abiotic. Abiotic is non-living component. So, relationship between living and non-living, the 2 components are there, and the 2 components interact with each other. They couple intricately and delicately, inseparably interrelated with each other, and interact with each other to make a system. So, that system is biological system. So, let us remind ourselves that in the ecosystem, it is a biological system, because its biological communities interact with matter and energy, and it forms a larger unit. So, when you say ecological system, we are dealing with a larger unit, not a smaller unit of biosystems. So, the term ecosystem was first coined by T. A. Stanley in 1935, and the concept is very broad theme. Main message is interdependency and obligatory relationship, so as to enable the coupling of components to form a functional unit. As I said earlier, structure and function leads to functional units. When there is a hierarchy of structure, it leads to a functional unit, and so it is coupling. Coupling means it is interacting with each other to make one unit. So, that is why ecosystem is very important in all ecological studies. So, the different terms are used. One is 1877 biocenosis. It consists of two words, bios, biological or life. Cenosis is the term that denotes in the physiology that the nuclei of different cells have no boundaries. They are all one unit. So, in the ecosystem, there is no differentiation between one component to other component. They all join together, and so they use the word biocenosis. And in American world 1887, they call microcosms. Macrocosm is a bigger unit, microcosm is a smaller unit ecosystem. Russian used 1846 to 1903 biogeocenosis or geobiocenosis. This gives you the clear meaning. Bio means biological component, we have seen higher the levels of organization. Geo means matter and energy. Cenosis, there is no distinction between bio and geo, and so they combine together form ecosystems. And it could be geobiocenosis because the matter energy or geology or earth sciences could combine with biosciences to form biocenosis. So, it is important to note that nature is one and there is one system altogether, and that is the unity of nature. So, in a eco balance there is a unity of nature, and that is a pursuit of happiness. So, the importance is in a component is dependent, but it works towards the ultimate purpose of a functional whole. So, a system is a functional whole. It functions as one unit, and its main aim is to maintain eco balance. There is a hierarchy, but the whole hierarchy functional whole. So, all parts lead to the center and every part is a whole. That is very important. Every part is important, every part leads to the whole. So, in ecological term, coupling of the biotic with abiotic leads to clearly the route of flow of energy, which is clearly defined trophic structure. The word trophic structure is very important because trophic means nutrient levels, nourishment levels, and that leads to biotic diversity. And biotic diversity depends upon material cycle, that is minerals and other material cycle. So, you will find that we use the term flow of energy, energy flow, not energy cycle. And here also we see material cycle because material can be exchanged from each other. So, this is the chief mark of ecosystem, that maintenance of balance. But in the case of energy, we never use the word energy cycle because energy can never be recycled. Once you use energy, it is gone. So, it disappears as heat and light energy. So, that is very important. We never use the word energy cycle, but material cycle is a proper word. So, the function of trophic system is nourishment. How do they obtain their food to live? In nature, there are two ways. One is autotrophic and heterotrophic nourishment. So, the mode of nourishment determines the way of life. So, one is autotrophic. Auto means self, trophic means nourishment, self nourishment, and that is plants. Hetero means other than. So, now let us have a break. Welcome back to our lecture series. We are talking about concepts of ecosystems, and in this one we considered that there are a hierarchy of structures, hierarchy levels starting from gene to the community, and this interacts with the abiotic system of matter energy to form various disciplines that we have seen earlier. And when there is a when there is a flow of energy, then there is nourishment. Nourishment, the technical term is trophic. How do they obtain food in the to live? There are two methods, two approaches. One is autotrophic. Autotrophic is self nourishment, and other one heterotrophic. Hetero means other than autotrophic. So, that is very important to see. So, in the explanation of terms, aquatic, smaller, water smaller but larger in nourishment, it is called phytoplankton. So, autotrophic is self nourishment, that is green plants. There are two types of green plants, one is landforms, trees, they are fewer in number, larger in size, that is very important. In the landform, the green plants trap the energy of light and form through photosynthesis the food products, but there are few numbers in terms of number, but they are larger in size. But in the other type is aquatic forms that we call phytoplankton. Phytoplankton are smaller in size, but larger in number, but the surface to volume area is higher here, amount of food production is larger. So, they trap solar energy and take inorganic materials and complex biochemical substances called starch. So, this is the first trophic level, that is very important. And if you see the calculation, you will find that the amount of energy that is trapped is almost 50% of the energy is trapped. And so, sometimes ecologically speaking, it is better to be vegetarian, because we consume the amount of energy that is trapped is nearly 50%, and that is a starch, but we do not have much protein in the phytoplankton. So, that is why we are going to higher levels. Then the other second type of category of nourishment is heterotrophic. Other than autotrophic mode of nourishment, animals eat plants and decomposition takes place. So, the material cycle continues. So, interaction between these two categories, autotrophic, heterotrophic mode of nourishment, is a chief feature of all ecosystems. So, these are the major types of food production. One is autotrophic, heterotrophic. Heterotrophic are the animals which eat on the plants. So, the true stratifications are seen in nature. What is the green belt? The green belt is the autotrophic layer, and the lower belt is a heterotrophic layer, is where the decomposition takes place. So, in ecological systems, life leads to death, death leads to life. It is a cycle. So, we have seen that eco balance also is a kind of a cycle. So, all our Indian Vedic systems or Eastern systems are cyclic. That is very important to have take a note of. So, in the now let us go to the 6 structural components. So, we studied that ecosystem means, ecology means there is structure and function of nature. So, we need to find out structures. So, there are 6 structural compounds. The first one is inorganic substance. So, that is a major component, that is nitrogen, carbon, water, oxygen, and that leads to nutrient cycle. So, these are the nutrient cycle inorganic substances. Then we have organic substances. Organic substances are protein, lipids, carbohydrate. Humic substances are the decomposed parts of plants, which link the biotic with the abiotic component. So, there becomes a link. So, these are the two major components. One more is there, that is climatic regime. So, climatic regime controls both biological and abiological regimes. The physical factors like temperature, humidity come under this. So, if you notice that the 3 components that we have considered is inorganic, organic and climatic, they are major abiotic group. So, as we said that if we make any system, we need 2 components, abiotic and biotic. So, even though there are 3 structural components, these 3 structural components can be linked as abiotic components. That is very important to remember. So, then the 4th component is producers. So, the producers are autotrophic producers, mostly large green plants which utilize organic material to produce organic food. So, producers. So, this is part of the community. So, first one, second one, third one, fourth one is the producers. I am going to deviate from the traditional classification, and the old classification after the producers, We will have a consumers. So, those who live on the producers are consumers, and then when the producers die, consumers die, leads to decomposers. So, the point is we have seen that earlier that all the three are abiotic components. So, the next three must be biotic components, but if you see that decomposers, not only microorganisms are decomposers, but there could be a abiotic component which could be a decomposer, that is fire. So, fire also can decompose materials. When your dead body is cremated, it becomes raw material, and so that is why we are not able to use the word decomposers. So, the new classification is, we instead of consumers we use macro consumers, and also we use micro consumers. So, if you go back and see that strict structural compound, first is inorganic substances, organic substance, climatic regime. These are three abiotic components in a major group, and the biological components are producers, macro consumers and micro consumers. So, that is why we cannot use the word decomposer, because fire is also a decomposer and it is not a biological component. So, the new classification of micro consumers, this mainly includes fungi and bacteria, and there are two types. There are in the micro consumers, the saprotrophic, sapro means to decompose and feed on the dead organic material. Osmotrophs or trophic means nourishment, osmo means water, they decompose and get through osmosis. So, that is osmotrophs. So, the significance is bacteria like fungi and decomposer dead tissue to release inorganic substances which can be absorbed through semi-permeable membrane. All the cell has semi-permeable membrane. So, permeability is a important matter in nourishment, that is osmotrophs. Some other decomposition materials biochemical can either stimulate or inhibit physiological and other isotopes. There are 6 functional outputs. So, energy circuits, there are two types, grazing circuits and organic circuits, food chain, diversity in pattern and distribution time in space, nutrient cycle, biogeochemical cycle, development and control. So, these are the essential structure and functional output. There are 6 components. Coming back to summary, ecosystem is a fundamental unit of any studies in ecology. Its larger unit where community is coupled with environment. It's a functional unit, it is coupling components to form a functional unit, that is maintenance and the interaction between each other, and that is becomes the eco balance. First question is describe the concept of ecosystem. So, first you have to describe what is ecology, then you have to describe what is system, combine both and form the ecosystem. Then you have to give the hierarchy of systems and say community interacts with matter and energy and forms the ecosystem. So, when you use this structure and function of nature, we can always talk about ecosystem, any unit. Playground could be an ecosystem, classroom could be ecosystem, your house can be an ecosystem, park is an ecosystem. So, they have a structural unit and that must be a function. Describe the grass field as ecosystem. So, in there you have to identify what are the producers, what are the consumers, micro consumers and macro consumers, and how they relate to each other to coupling and make a system by itself, and how the concept of ecosystem could be applied to your village or classrooms. And the larger unit is village. Village is a bigger unit. There you have to have the structure and function and nature and find what is the end product, end to which the whole system goes. So, it is very easy to, and this is application oriented questions, and it will be giving you enough rich dividends if you study it carefully. Thank you very much.